All right, let's get into it. Have you ever really thought about how faith could be, well, defended? Not with blind belief, but with logic, with evidence, with a structured, reasoned case. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of Christian apologetics. We're going to break down what it is, how it works, and the kinds of arguments it makes. So, first things first, we have to tackle a huge misconception that's literally hiding in plain sight, right there in the name. You hear apologetics, and your brain probably jumps to one conclusion, but it's not what you think. I mean, seriously, when you hear the word apology, what's the first thing you think of? It's saying, I'm sorry, right? It's admitting you were wrong about something. But in this context, that could not be farther from the truth. And here's why. The word apologetics actually comes from this ancient Greek word, apologia, and apologia has nothing to do with saying sorry. Think of it more like a lawyer in a courtroom, making a powerful, logical case to defend a position. It's a defense, not an excuse. So to put it all together, Christian apologetics is not about being sorry for what you believe. It's the complete opposite. It's the intellectual practice of building a case, using logic, reason, and evidence to argue that the Christian worldview isn't just a matter of faith, but that it's also rationally compelling and objectively true. So how exactly does that work in practice? Well, one of the first and most fundamental things apologetics tries to do is make a case for the biggest question of them all. Does God exist? You kind of have to start there, right? Okay, so this brings us to one of the most famous arguments ever, from the philosopher Thomas Aquinas. It's called the first cause argument, and it's actually pretty straightforward. It goes like this. Look around you. Everything that exists or happens is an effect that was triggered by a prior cause. That cause had a cause, which had a cause, creating this huge chain stretching back through time. But, and here's the key, that chain can't just go back forever. Logically, it had to start somewhere. There must have been an initial, uncaused, first cause that kicked the whole thing off. And that, the argument concludes, is what we call God. But of course, it's not that simple. An argument that powerful was bound to get some powerful counterarguments. And it did. This question has sparked centuries of really intense philosophical debate that honestly is still going strong today. So here's the classic challenge, the one you might be thinking right now. Okay, fine. If everything needs a cause, then what caused God? And you know what? It's a perfectly logical question. The theological response goes like this. The rule, everything needs a cause, applies to things within our universe, to finite things. But the first cause, by its very nature, has to be outside of that system. It's the one uncaused infinite exception that makes the whole chain of cause and effect possible in the first place. Apologetics doesn't just hang out in the world of abstract philosophy, though. It also gets its hands dirty, you could say. It wades into history and science to try and verify the historical reliability of key texts, especially the Bible. And this is where apologists really lean into external evidence, looking at things like archaeology to see if it backs up the biblical accounts. And there have been some fascinating finds. For instance, archaeological evidence supporting the existence of the Edomites, just as they're described in Genesis, or finding the corner of an altar at Shiloh that perfectly matches a description from the book of 1 Kings. Every discovery like this is used to build a cumulative case that these ancient texts aren't just myths, but that they're actually rooted in real history. So when you put it all together, the high-level philosophy, the on-the-ground historical evidence, you really start to see what Christian apologetics is all about. It's this incredible attempt to find the place where two very different ways of knowing the world meet. I think this quote from our source material just nails it. You've got theologians who start from a place of faith and divine revelation. And then you've got philosophers who start from a place of pure logic and reason. What's so interesting is that both groups are wrestling with the exact same ultimate questions about God and existence. They're just coming at it from totally different directions. And that, right there, is the mission of apologetics. It tries to be the bridge between those two worlds. It's a discipline built on the idea that faith doesn't have to be afraid of reason, and that maybe, just maybe, reason can lead you right to the doorstep of faith. It wants to start a conversation between the two. So that kind of brings it all back to a really personal question, doesn't it? After seeing how these arguments work and the evidence that's presented, for you personally, where do you draw that line between what can be reasoned and what must be taken on faith?